I love Don Cheadle so much, and I love what he's done. I still hear a lot of fans asking, am I going to come back and be War Machine?
Yeah.
Am I going to come back and be War Machine? I think they could have a huge franchise off of it.
Terrence Howard is a name everyone knows. Whether you've seen him as Franklin Burch in Prisoners or as the music mogul Lucius Lyon in Empire, he's made quite an impact. However, the role that really put him on the map is Colonel James Rhodes in Iron Man, and he absolutely nailed it. But then came the surprising moment when Don Cheadle stepped in to replace him as War Machine in the MCU. So what was the real reason Terrence Howard was let go from Iron Man 2? And how Howard's personal life has been overshadowed by scandals filled with shocking allegations and courtroom battles that unfolded in the public eye. Now, at 55, Terrence Howard has finally confirmed the rumors. Why Don Cheadle replaced Terrence Howard as the MCU's War Machine. The Marvel Cinematic Universe kicked off in 2008 with the release of Iron Man, introducing fans to iconic characters like Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, Clark Gregg's Phil Coulson, and Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan. Terrence Howard was also part of the mix, playing James "Rhodey" Rhodes. However, his time as War Machine was short-lived, as Don Cheadle took over the role in the 2010 sequel, Iron Man 2. Originally, the plan was for Howard to continue portraying Rhodes beyond Iron Man. He was a well-known actor with notable credits, including Crash, Ray, and Hustle and Flow, the last of which earned him an Academy Award nomination. In fact, he was the highest-paid actor in the first MCU film, making $3.5 million, while Downey earned $500,000. Howard's line in Iron Man, "Next time, baby," also suggested that there were plans for his character to evolve into War Machine later in the franchise. However, just months after Iron Man was released, Howard departed from the role, ultimately altering the course of his career and Don Cheadle's as well. Why did Terrence Howard leave Marvel's Iron Man? Robert Downey Jr. saw a significant salary increase for Iron Man 2, reportedly jumping to $10 million, along with a share of back-end profits. As a result, Marvel Studios drastically cut Terrence Howard's pay to what he claimed was just $40,000 per film. This change didn't sit well with Howard, who believed he played a crucial role in helping Downey secure his part. In fact, he had even taken a $1 million pay cut for Iron Man in exchange for the studio hiring Downey. However, Marvel maintains that Howard had no influence on Downey's casting. Additionally, Howard mentioned in a 2008 NPR interview that good faith negotiations were not always upheld at Marvel. Following Howard's exit, rumors began circulating that he was difficult to work with on the set of Iron Man. Entertainment Weekly reported that sources indicated director Jon Favreau and the film's producers were unhappy with Howard's performance, which led to edits and reshoots. Because of this, when Favreau and writer Justin Theroux started planning Iron Man 2, they decided to reduce Howard's role. This smaller part in the sequel prompted Marvel to call Howard's agents back to the negotiation table. Don Cheadle stepped up as War Machine. Once Terrence Howard left the project, Marvel quickly knew who they wanted to step into the War Machine suit. According to Rolling Stone, the day after the split with Howard, the studio was already reaching out to Don Cheadle. Given Cheadle's impressive resume, which includes films like Hotel Rwanda and the Ocean's 11 trilogy, it made perfect sense for him to take on the role in Iron Man 2. Interestingly, Cheadle was almost cast as Rhodey in the very first film. In an interview with MTV News, Cheadle explained, "I met with Jon Favreau and the team early on before the first film. And I guess there was a split. Some people wanted Terrence and some wanted me." Howard backed this up during an appearance on the radio show Sway in the Morning, stating, "Really, initially they wanted Don for that role, but my agent pushed me in. So I never had any beef with Don about it." It's reassuring to hear there's no animosity between the two actors who played War Machine. Ultimately, the decision to cast Cheadle turned out to be a great one for Avengers fans, as he brought a more lighthearted vibe to the character. However, Howard's perspective on the Iron Man situation has changed quite a bit over the years. and he might not entirely agree with that sentiment. Howard sometimes seems cool with the whole thing, but sometimes he seems furious. So, how does Terrence Howard feel about missing out on a multi-billion-dollar franchise? His perspective has definitely changed over time. Initially, it seemed like Howard had come to terms with the situation and found a way to move on. In 2010, during an interview with E!, he stated, "Despite the usual idea or thought that there's some controversy, it was a wonderful split with Marvel, and I know they've done well." By 2012, Howard still seemed pretty upbeat about the whole experience. On Sway in the Morning, he mentioned that he wasn't holding any grudges and acknowledged that Marvel had a great deal going with Cheadle and Downey. More importantly, he felt that leaving the MCU allowed him to focus on his education and pursue some interesting career opportunities. Howard explained that losing the role of Rhodes gave him the chance to return to college and earn his doctorate in chemical engineering. "And now I have a company that grows diamonds," he shared. "That's going to replace silicon in computers and all gemstones. So if that hadn't happened, I would never have gone back to school." It's worth noting that Howard often finds himself involved in some unconventional projects. He claims to have developed diamond-making patents that challenge the law of conservation of energy, and he's even created his own form of math where 1 times 1 equals 2. But despite these quirks, he seems genuinely at peace with Marvel Studios. Of course, time can heal some wounds, but for others, it can just deepen the scars. In the early 2010s, Howard appeared to be pretty relaxed about Marvel's decision to replace him with Don Cheadle. However, back in 2008, when the controversy was still fresh, he was clearly upset. Just a few months after Iron Man hit theaters, Howard spoke about his frustrations during an appearance on NPR's Weekend Edition. "Apparently, the contracts we write and sign aren't worth the paper they're printed on," he stated. When the host asked if there was a difference between the Hollywood elite and the characters he played in Hustle and Flow, Howard angrily replied, "No, promises aren't kept, and good faith negotiations aren't always honored." That anger seems to have resurfaced in recent years. In 2013, he claimed to Hollywood.com that Marvel had tried to sabotage his career with Iron Man. Then, in September 2018, while appearing on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live, he reflected on what his life might have looked like if he had remained in the MCU. "You know what's so funny?" he said. "Even though I love Don Cheadle and what he's done, I still hear a lot of fans asking, 'Am I going to come back and be War Machine?'" Howard is well aware that returning as Rhodey would come with a hefty payday. "I think Marvel could have a huge franchise off of it," he remarked, adding, "But FK 'em." While there may not be a strong demand for a War Machine series, it's clear that Howard still harbors resentment about how things unfolded with Marvel Studios. In fact, he seems to have a particular bone to pick with one person. He totally blames Robert Downey Jr. At the end of the day, Terrence Howard doesn't fully blame Marvel Studios for letting him go. While he might harbor some resentment toward producer Kevin Feige and director Jon Favreau, the person he holds most accountable is none other than Robert Downey Jr., aka Tony Stark. Howard has repeatedly claimed that he played a crucial role in helping Downey land the part of Iron Man. He alleges that Marvel was hesitant to cast Downey because of his past struggles with addiction, but Howard wanted to give his friend a second chance. He even took a $1 million pay cut to persuade Marvel to hire Downey. However, when it came time for Marvel to recast War Machine, Howard feels that Downey let him down. In a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, he revealed that he called his friend multiple times a day, leaving messages that said things like, "Look, man, I need the help that I gave you." According to Howard, Downey never returned those calls. "And guess who got the $1 million I was supposed to get?" Howard lamented. "He got the whole franchise, which means I've effectively given him $100 million. That's a big loss for me from trying to look out for someone." On the other hand, Marvel insists that Howard had nothing to do with Downey getting the role of Tony Stark. Regardless of the true story, it seems that Howard may be starting to forgive his superhero co-star. In September 2016, he shared a photo on Instagram of himself with Downey, both smiling and with Howard's arm around him. The caption read, "Nice to see my old friend again. Life's too short, Jock all good." After all these years, it looks like the two have finally reconnected, and hopefully, their bond will remain strong. However, losing his role in the MCU isn't the only trouble Terrence Howard has faced in his life. Far from it. His journey has been marked by scandals, shocking allegations, and courtroom battles that have played out in the public eye. Here are some of the darker secrets of his life that not many people know about. A violent incident shaped Terrence Howard's childhood. When Terrence Howard was only 2 years old, his father, Tyrone Howard, took his 3 children and pregnant wife to a department store in Cleveland, Ohio, to see Santa Claus. While they were waiting, Tyrone got into a disagreement with another man who accused him of cutting in line. According to a report from the New York Times, accounts of what transpired next varied, but it ended with Tyrone killing the man. This tragic event became known as the Santa Line slaying, and it landed Tyrone in prison for 11 months. Reflecting on this horrific childhood experience in a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, Terrence recalled, "I was standing next to my father watching. Then everything happened so quickly, and then my dad was on a table, and then he was gone to prison." Bullying led to more violence in Terrence Howard's upbringing. As Terrence Howard shared with Rolling Stone, his mother was just 15 years old when he was born. After his delivery, doctors noticed his skin had a yellowish hue and worried he might have jaundice, so they placed him in an incubator for the next 3 days. As he grew up, that yellow tint lingered, earning him the nickname High Yellow in his neighborhood, which he described as a ghetto. Unfortunately, this led to him being bullied and beaten. "Let's smack him and see how long it takes him to turn red," Howard recalled the kid saying about him. When his uncle witnessed him getting picked on at the age of 13, he decided to step in and taught Howard how to box, training him in a Rocky style. Once Howard became skilled at fighting, the bullies who had tormented him found themselves on the losing end. "I was the pretty boy, so people didn't think I could defend myself," he explained, adding with a smirk, "It didn't end up being a good day for them." Terrence Howard was arrested for spousal abuse. In 2001, Terrence Howard was arrested after a reported altercation with his then-wife, Lori McComas. According to a police report obtained by the Smoking Gun, the couple, who were separated at the time, got into an argument over the phone. McComas claimed that Howard warned her if she hung up, he'd come over and hurt her. After she ended the call, she dialed 911, but Howard allegedly showed up, broke through a locked door, and confronted her. When police arrived, Howard reportedly admitted, "I broke the door down and hit my wife." He was arrested and charged with simple assault, terroristic threats, and other related offenses. In 2002, the Smoking Gun reported that Howard pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of disorderly conduct. Reflecting on the incident in a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, Howard admitted, "She was talking to me really strong, and I lost my mind and slapped her in front of the kids." While her lawyer claimed it was a closed fist, Howard acknowledged, "Even slapping her was wrong." A violent altercation with a different ex-wife. Terrence Howard's relationship with his second wife, Michelle Gent, was turbulent from the start. In 2011, she filed for divorce after less than a year of marriage, later making serious allegations in court while seeking a restraining order. Gent claimed that Howard had once slugged her across the face and neck. She also alleged that he hit her in the face, chipping her tooth with his wedding ring, and reportedly said, "I'll hit a woman quicker than I'd hit a man." In 2013, despite their troubled history, the two were discussing a possible reconciliation when another argument broke out. This time, Gent allegedly sprayed Howard and 2 of his family members with mace. She claimed he responded by striking her repeatedly. Ghent later appeared in court with a black eye, successfully obtaining another restraining order against Howard. Reflecting on the altercation in a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, Howard offered his version of events. "She was trying to mace me, and you can't see anything, so all you can do is try to bat somebody away. I think something caught her, but I wasn't trying to hit her." Terrence Howard has had altercations with complete strangers as well. In 2000, Terrence Howard found himself in trouble after an incident on a flight. He was arrested for allegedly grabbing a flight attendant by the wrist and yelling at her when she asked him to take his seat due to the "fasten seatbelts" sign being on. The plane landed in Cleveland, Ohio, where Howard was taken into custody, but he was released the next day when the prosecutor didn't have the right jurisdiction to press charges. A few years later, Howard was involved in a more serious altercation at a diner in Philadelphia. Howard got upset when the hostess started seating a couple, Danielle DiStefano and Kevin Safel, ahead of him. He reportedly stepped in front of them and asked why he wasn't being seated first. When DiStefano explained they were ahead of him in line, Howard allegedly responded, "FKU, I wasn't talking to you." When Safel demanded an apology, things escalated. Howard reportedly punched Safel in the face and DiStefano in the chest. After knocking Safel to the ground, Howard allegedly continued hitting him until he lost consciousness. Howard fled the scene and tried to disguise himself, but police eventually caught up with him. While he admitted to the altercation, he claimed it was self-defense. Initially charged with simple assault and harassment, Howard later pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct. His Empire paychecks were garnished. Terrence Howard's messy divorce from his second wife, Michelle Ghent, led to years of back and forth in court over spousal support. In a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, Howard opened up about how the divorce had left him financially strapped, saying he was broke as can be, and that his Empire paychecks were being held for garnishment because of his ex. He added, "There's nothing worse than being a broke movie star." By 2019, the legal battle finally came to an end. According to the Daily News, a judge ruled that Howard owed Ghent $263,137 in unpaid spousal support, along with an additional $1,055,970. On top of that, Howard was also ordered to cover Ghent's legal fees, which totaled $909,222. Given that Empire was wrapping up its sixth and final season, Ghent's attorney, Karen Donahoe, argued that it was crucial to secure the funds while Howard was still earning from the show. "We need to have the monies held," she told the court. "This is the last bulk of money we can reasonably get before it disappears." Terrence Howard knows he can be difficult to work with. Some actors get labeled as difficult, and Terrence Howard is no exception. Terrence has a reputation for being a hothead, an unnamed TV executive told the New York Post. Another source, described as a former associate, said, "I don't think anger issues quite covers it," adding that when Howard doesn't get his way, he loses his saint very easily. From Howard's perspective, what others see as difficult, he views as standing up for himself. In an interview with the New York Times, he recalled one of his first acting gigs, a small role on The Cosby Show when he was just 19. When he found out he'd been cut from the episode, he was furious. "I banged on Bill Cosby's dressing room door, and amazingly, he answered," Howard said. "I told him, 'I'm a man just like you.' He didn't like that, and the casting agent never took my calls again." Looking back, Howard says that moment shaped his approach to his career. "That set the template for the rest of my professional life. I say the hell with it, and I suffer the consequences." Terrence Howard alleged his ex-wife tried to blackmail him. In 2015, Terrence Howard went to court to challenge the terms of his 2012 divorce settlement with ex-wife Michelle Ghent. According to the Associated Press, Howard argued that he had been coerced into agreeing to the original settlement due to blackmail. He claimed that Ghent had threatened to release audio and video recordings of him in compromising situations. "I was terrified of her releasing the private tapes," Howard testified, explaining that the material, which featured him in intimate settings, could have ruined his career. He feared that if the recordings were made public, he would never be able to work again in this business. Howard also revealed that he had paid Ghent $40,000 when she first threatened to release the recordings. When his attorney asked if he considered that payment hush money, Howard responded that it felt more like blood money. Ghent, however, denied the blackmail claims in her deposition. Her attorney pointed out that she still had a restraining order against Howard, stemming from earlier allegations of domestic violence, a secret divorce, and a reconciliation. In 2013, Terrence Howard married for the third time, tying the knot with Miranda Pack. However, court documents obtained by Entertainment Tonight revealed that the couple had quietly separated in August 2014, with Pack filing for divorce in March 2015. Their divorce was finalized that July, just a month after they welcomed their first child, a son named Kieran Love. Then, in a surprising turn of events, Howard shared a video on Instagram in December 2018, where he proposed to Pac again, 3 years after their divorce. "It took me 45 years to find you," he said in the heartfelt clip. "But now that I have you in my 50th year, I will spend the rest of eternity at your side." During a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, conducted while they were going through their secret divorce, Pac acknowledged their deep connection but wasn't shy about sharing her frustrations. She described Howard as so selfish and complained that he doesn't lift a finger around the house. "I probably leave him 30 times a month," she admitted, adding, "We don't have a normal life." Even the IRS came after Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard has faced some trouble with the IRS, and in 2019, he became the focus of a criminal investigation for tax evasion. According to documents obtained by The Blast, Howard, his wife Miranda Pack, and her company Universal Bridges were being investigated for possible financial crimes. Howard had reportedly hired a criminal attorney and had already spoken with investigators. When people reached out, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania declined to confirm or deny whether an investigation was ongoing. Previously, The Blast reported that Howard owed $143,538.61 in unpaid taxes for 2010, plus interest and penalties for late payment. The records indicated that if Howard didn't pay off his debt, the government could seize his property and assets. This wasn't Howard's first run-in with tax issues. Back in 2010, he was hit with a lien for $1.1 million in unpaid taxes, and in 2006, another lien for more than $600,000. However, both of those earlier liens had reportedly been resolved before the alleged criminal investigation began. At one point, Terrence Howard apparently couldn't pay rent. In 2013, Terrence Howard found himself in legal trouble with his landlord after being sued for unpaid rent following an eviction from his New York City apartment. According to court documents, Howard's lease had ended in November 2012, but he continued to live in the apartment until he was officially evicted in May 2013. Lawrence Wolf, the landlord's attorney, shared more details with the New York Post, labeling Howard as just another deadbeat and claiming that he owed about $55,000 in back rent. Wolf emphasized that the issue wasn't disputed, saying, "It's a lot of money. The issue is strictly the non-payment." When the case went to court, Howard didn't show up, leading the judge to rule in favor of the landlord by default. However, the judge didn't immediately accept the landlord's claim of $51,907.85 in back rent, scheduling another hearing to confirm the exact amount owed. What do you think about the journey he's been on, and how do you feel about his recent revelations? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates on Terrence Howard and other Hollywood stars.